Going no contact is not a tactic designed to make a manipulator miss you. It is a critical emergency intervention for your own deregulated nervous system. In the next 10 minutes, you will understand the neurobiological withdrawal phases, the 90-day psychological traps, and a structured protocol to prevent your defenses from collapsing. Because if you treat this as a temporary strategy, you hand the manipulator a precise map of exactly when you break. In popular media and digital spaces, the phrase "going no contact" is frequently weaponized. It is often mischaracterized as a form of revenge, a modern manifestation of the silent treatment, or a dramatic ultimatum used to gain leverage in an argument. Clinically, this framing is entirely incorrect and highly dangerous to a target's psychological health. This analysis draws strictly from empirical clinical trauma research and neurobiological studies on addiction withdrawal to cut through the popular therapeutic misconceptions surrounding relationship termination. When you implement an absolute separation protocol, you are not engaging in interpersonal warfare. You are establishing a psychological firewall. The objective is not to elicit a reaction from the manipulator. The objective is to completely remove your cognitive infrastructure from their field of influence. You are stopping the intake of toxic stimuli so your brain can begin the grueling, non-linear process of neurochemical stabilization. If you do not anchor yourself in this clinical reality, the internal withdrawal symptoms will override your logic within weeks. If this framing is bringing clarity to something you are currently living through, subscribe to the Shadow Protocol and hit like. New clinical analysis every week. Now, let us examine the first psychological trap. To successfully execute an extraction protocol, you must first abandon the illusion that your absence will teach the manipulator a lesson. The first psychological trap is the leverage fallacy. When a highly empathetic individual enters no contact with the secret hope that the manipulator will experience remorse, feel lonely, or finally recognize their value, they are still fundamentally indexed to the manipulator's reality. You are playing a game of psychological chess. You must understand that highly manipulative, narcissistic, or dark triad personalities do not process absence the way you do. Where you see an opportunity for reflection, they see a challenge to their dominance. If you leave the channel open even a fraction of an inch, by checking their social media profiles or asking mutual friends about them, you remain active in the game. Your mind remains captive to the anticipation of their move. The moment you implement an absolute firewall, you must prepare for a well-documented behavioral phenomenon known as an extinction burst. When an organism is accustomed to receiving a psychological reward or exerting control through a specific behavior, and that input is suddenly cut off entirely, the behavior does not immediately stop. Instead, it escalates dramatically. The manipulator will often accelerate their attempts to contact you. They will shift rapidly from declarations of love to intense rage to manufactured emergencies to profound health crises. This is not a sign that they have realized they love you. It is the mechanical escalation of a manipulator rattling the doorknob of a room that used to be wide open. If you mistake this volatile spike in behavior for genuine transformation and break your silence, you validate their escalation. You teach them that to get through to you, they simply need to turn the dial of chaos up to 10. The extinction burst is the external threat. The deeper danger to your protocol is internal, the neurochemical withdrawal your own brain will launch against your decision. Subscribe to the Shadow Protocol and hit like to help this analysis reach others. We deliver structured clinical deconstructions every week to help you decode manipulative behavior and protect your long-term autonomy. Let us return to the analysis. The primary reason individuals break no contact is not a lack of logical clarity. It is the raw, visceral agony of neurochemical withdrawal. The second psychological trap is the neurochemical crash. If you have not yet watched our previous analysis on the neurochemical mechanics of a trauma bond, that framework is the foundational architecture for everything in this chapter. The link is in the description. Neuroimaging studies of individuals separating from toxic, intermittent attachment figures reveal that the brain activates in patterns identical to patients undergoing acute substance withdrawal. The prolonged hot and cold cycles of a manipulative relationship condition your brain to operate on massive waves of dopamine. When you implement absolute separation, your neurochemical supply is cut to zero instantly. Your brain enters a state of acute deficit. This triggers severe physiological symptoms: physical chest pain, insomnia, pervasive nausea, and a profound, agonizing internal restlessness. Within the first several weeks of your protocol, a cognitive vulnerability occurs known as the fading affect bias. The human brain possesses an evolutionary mechanism that softens the emotional intensity of negative memories over time to prevent chronic psychological trauma. However, inside a trauma bond withdrawal, this mechanism traps you. Your brain systematically suppresses the memories of the devaluation, the insults, and the gaslighting, while vividly amplifying the memories of the love bombing and the rare moments of safety. Your brain is desperate for a chemical fix. It will lie to you. It will whisper that the relationship wasn't actually that bad, that you overreacted, or that a brief text conversation can be managed safely. This is not logic. It is the addiction center of your brain attempting to force a relapse to restore its dopamine baseline. Before we outline the operational 90-day stabilization protocol required to insulate your mind against this neurochemical deception, there is a dangerous tactical event you must anticipate. It occurs when the manipulator realizes their direct escalation tactics have completely failed against your firewall. It is a highly strategic maneuver designed to bypass your defense lines through proxy exploitation. Pay absolute attention to this structural pattern. When direct aggression and emotional manipulation fail to pierce your absolute separation, the manipulator will transition to an indirect strategy known behaviorally as hoovering. The third psychological trap is the Hoover. Named metaphorically after the suction of a vacuum, its objective is to pull you back into the manipulative system. The Hoover is executed via 3 distinct delivery paths. The phantom invalidation. This occurs when the manipulator sends an entirely benign, non-threatening message that demands zero emotional heavy lifting. Did you leave your passport in my drawer? I saw a book today that reminded me of your project. Is this phone number still active? The clinical motive is to test the elasticity of your boundary. They want to see if you will answer. If you reply with even a neutral no, they have verified that the firewall is permeable. The uncharacteristic apology. The manipulator will suddenly offer a profound, highly detailed acknowledgement of their past faults. They will use therapy language, claim they have entered counseling, or state they have finally understood how much pain they caused you. Notice the structural trap. It is designed to exploit your natural desire for closure. The moment you step forward to validate their healing, the boundary is compromised, and the intermittent reinforcement schedule, the same dopamine cycle examined in our previous analysis on trauma bonding, resets to its origin point: triangulation via secondary proxies. If you block all direct lines, the manipulator will recruit secondary individuals, mutual friends, family members, or well-meaning acquaintances in a pattern behaviorally described as proxy-based triangulation. These individuals become weaponized messengers. They will approach you under the guise of neutral concern, stating, "They are in a really dark place right now," or "They genuinely miss you. Can't you just talk to them for 5 minutes?" If you break your protocol due to proxy pressure, you teach the manipulator a dangerous rule. Your boundary can be completely neutralized as long as they use someone you trust to dismantle it. Now you understand the 3 delivery paths of the Hoover. The final section gives you the operational protocol to survive all 3, and the 90 days that follow. Surviving the neurochemical withdrawal of absolute separation requires a shift from emotional processing to systematic behavioral execution. You must commit to 3 non-negotiable structural rules for the first 90 days, a behavioral baseline grounded in established addiction recovery research as your operational guideline. Eliminate digital microdoses. Blocking a telephone number is an insufficient baseline. You must eliminate digital microdosing. Research on cue-triggered craving in addiction science indicates that passive observation, such as viewing a public profile, checking an online status, or looking at an old photograph, activates the same ventral tegmental area reward pathways as active communication. It delivers a microdose of the addiction chemical, which functionally resets your withdrawal clock to day 0 for the purposes of this protocol. Your behavioral rule must be absolute. If your willpower is compromised, you must permanently deactivate your accounts, block mutual networks, or outsource your device management to a trusted external party. The digital silhouette must be completely erased. Construct the cognitive ledger. To counteract the fading affect bias during the early weeks of your protocol, you cannot rely on your memory. You must build a physical data asset. Write an unedited, highly specific physical ledger of the 5 most severe instances of devaluation, gaslighting, or psychological degradation you experienced. State the dates, the exact words used, and the physical anxiety you felt. The moment your brain attempts to sanitize the past and whispers that you should check in on the manipulator, you must read this ledger aloud. You must force your logical brain to confront the raw, unpolished data of the abuse to manually short-circuit the chemical craving. Execute asynchronous logistics. If separation involves legal property, shared financial assets, or child custody, contact cannot always be reduced to 0. In these scenarios, you must implement the asynchronous logistics framework. Eliminate all real-time communication mediums, including phone calls, direct text messaging, or physical meetings. Move all coordination exclusively to a single, specialized asynchronous platform, such as a court-approved co-parenting application or a formal legal representative email channel. Set a strict behavioral protocol. You check this channel exactly once every 48 hours. Strip the text of all emotional interpretation, extract only the baseline logistical data, respond monosyllabically, and log out. You treat the interaction like a purely transactional commercial exchange. Absolute separation is not about changing the manipulator's narrative. It is about reclaiming your psychological sovereignty. The moment you stop looking for closure from the person who broke you, your nervous system can finally begin to heal. Once your extraction protocol is secure, you must transition from reactive isolation to active structural fortification. You must learn how to construct permanent, unshakable boundaries that manipulators cannot penetrate or debate. To master the precise linguistic and behavioral architecture of boundary implementation, watch our next analysis on how to set boundaries with a manipulator right here on the left. Maintain your baseline. Protect your reality. We will see you in the next analysis.